Hey, thank you everybody joining us today. Welcome to our weekly digital strategy chat brought to you by Denver Data Web. We are a digital strategy company. We help our clients overcome their unique challenges and achieve their objectives, all while applying a goals-focused approach to web development, web design, and digital marketing. My name is David Zonka. I'm a digital strategist with Denver Data Web, and with me today we also have Sarah and Tom.
I'm Sarah. I'm the digital marketing analyst at Denver Data Web.
And I'm Tom, the president out here.
So thanks, guys. And thank you, everybody that's joined us today. Anybody who has any questions, feel free to chime in. We got a chat here and live stream thing, so looking forward to additional questions from everybody. But today is going to be a little bit different than our normal format. We've got the Brain Trust here today. We're going to conduct a little expert panel discussion on digital marketing strategies. Really, we're all thinking about 2021, right? We're heading into the holidays at the end of the year. A lot of people are thinking about what their marketing plans are going to be. It's been crazy. That pretty much goes without saying. But 2020 isn't over yet, and so a lot of folks are racking their brains on how to start off 2021 on a real solid footing. That's what we plan on doing right here, right now. So we got some great questions sent in from some of our regular listeners and watchers and from the community, and we're going to go through them, take turns sharing our ideas, points of view, answer that sort of thing. So hey, let's go and get started. Going to get the first question here. Let me dig these up. All right, so let's dive into it. So I'll go and just kind of read off each of these questions. We'll start. Yeah, Sarah, why don't you, once I rattle off the question, kind of come up with some of your ideas and thoughts you have, and then Tom, and then I'll kind of wrap it in. So here we go. Number one. I am a small business owner without a marketing person or staff. I own a local kids play center, struggle with knowing what to post on social media for my business. I haven't seen a lot of views or comments, just wondering if I should bother with that anymore. What should I be doing to make my marketing work better throughout this COVID mess? That's a great question. Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, well, the first thing is typically is if you're a small business, your social media audience is relatively small on its own. Growing that audience will help in many different ways, but one way you can do that is by boosting the posts. And it may seem like the obvious solution, but when you're boosting, you're not only targeting the audience that you want those posts to reach, but then you're also gaining new audience. You can even have like CTAs in your posts that people can like your posts. And then that way, when you post in the future, more people are seeing it because your client base is larger or your audience base is larger. Another thing to think about with that is if you're not getting a whole lot of post interaction, like a lot of likes and comments, maybe review your site analytics. You may find that people are actually visiting your site through your link, but they're not necessarily commenting or posting. And in the end, that is what you want. You want people to go through your post to your site and have that type of interaction because that's the type that's going to make you money. But I mean, likes and comments are always great too because it looks really great from an audience standpoint. But before jumping to conclusions that it's not working, just make sure you're surveying your analytics and finding out where that's coming from. Because if you're getting that traffic to your site and you're getting sales that way, that's exactly what you want.
That's good stuff. And for those listening in, a CTA, that's what a call to action, right?
Sorry, I use a lot of synonyms, not synonyms, acronyms.
Yeah, that's all right. Tom, what do you think?
I was going to ask some questions add some questions to Sarah's plate, but the things I was thinking was, it seems like it would be relevant to consider what the nature of the posts are. Are they engaging? Are they presented from the perspective of the parent or the challenges that the parent's facing? And the obvious that you mentioned, Sarah, was metrics. Are they tracking it? That's really essential to see what you're getting out of it so you can shape how you want it to go in the future.
Yeah, if people are liking your post but not doing anything with it, then that looks great, but it doesn't really help your business much either.
Mm-hmm. Do you find, Sarah, when you're putting together these kind of programs that, put together scheduling out posts, that there's a little bit of strategy to what topics you're going to put out in front of people versus just getting volume out onto social media?
Yeah, I mean, it first comes down to, in my case, what the client wants to see. But then in addition to that, you do have to make that post engaging. You have to, I think of it, I've said this before, I always let myself be marketed to. So I pay attention to things that I would react to. If it is a rather dry post in itself, the text, maybe find a way to draw somebody in with like a unique question or a unique starting point, and then having the call to action at the end be very clear what you want people to do. And then even if after all of that, what you're writing still needs a little bit of a oomph, you can always use an image that helps. Obviously have the image be related to the post and in a way that's also engaging, but just making all those things work together. Try not to go too far out in left field and like not disengage from the post itself. But just using the topic at hand and finding ways to get people interested, and then also thinking about what you would like to see. There's a lot of things that go into it, but yes, there's a strategy.
That's good stuff. For the analytics side, I'll just chime in here real briefly. There's things like pixels. So like Facebook Pixel, it's essentially kind of a tracking code that you can get set up, with your website that also interfaces with with Facebook. It gives Facebook a lot more information about those people that are bouncing back and forth. So that's really critical. Business in the time of COVID, think about that sort of thing, like a business like this that's trying to get more traction, definitely making sure to explain, we're still open. Here's the precautions we're doing. Here's how you can still have fun, and show that this is actually the case. Showing pictures of people, before the time of COVID doing all the normal things as part of a marketing, that's not really on point, right? I don't know if any of us like to see all the stuff and be reminded about all the masks. Like, my daughters get the highlights magazines, which are really fun. And, the recent ones, all the illustrations have kids in masks. And it's like, that's right. This is a reality at the moment, but that's okay. I mean, trying to hide it or pretend it's not the case may not help as well. That's some good stuff. All right, let's go on to our next question, number 2. I am a freelance photographer and I have a ton of experience, but I'm not a marketer. What kinds of techniques can you recommend for someone like me who has some budget but needs more work before I can justify spending more? Great question. Sarah, what do you think?
So I guess, there's a lot of things you can do with this. In short, you do want to create demand. So, having your, okay, what's the word I'm looking for? How am I looking to describe this? Because this is such a big question. I guess.
Well, there could be like a mix, right? Because, with your marketing mix in this, I see there's a couple of different problems. One, there's probably you're wanting to differentiate but against all the other photographers out there who are all competing for potentially this smaller chunk of business, right? That's right off the bat. That's like, if you see any of those nature videos of like National Geographic or something, you like, the pools of water in the Serengeti and they're evaporating. There's all these fish flopping around. That seems kind of like crazy, to compare to this, but I think that's, in some respects, that's what some industries and markets are experiencing. There's less people wanting to, so you're competing more, but also at the same time, some folks are holding off from doing photography. Like, maybe I can't do it right now or whatnot, but that's probably not the case. They probably should still be doing their professional photography to help their business. And maybe there's, what you're probably thinking of is that demand generation is helping to realize, here's why you should keep doing it. Here's how it can be done, right?
Yeah. And in that same respect, it is advisable that you do understand that not everyone needs every type of photographer also. So if you are a photographer, odds are most likely, probably in every case, you do different types. And so you do want to segment that into different services and have different ads focusing on those different services, but then target those ads specifically to different audiences. So if you're doing wedding photography, you're going to have a much, much different audience than if you're doing office personnel photography, or if you're doing photography of people's family photos or Christmas photos or things like that. So knowing how to properly segment your services into more niche services or specific services, and then properly displaying those services in a way, and obviously use photos and images and use your best quality images. And also, I guess, kind of an offshoot with it, use images that are a little more universal. If it's a very, very specific type of family photography, maybe use something a little more general that's going to appeal to a larger group of people. And if you are using something that's a little more specific and a little more odd, use it in a fun way where it gets people's attention. And that's kind of, again, going off on a little bit of a tangent, but targeting your services to the correct audience is your best way to go with that. Because, I mean, yeah. Kind of got a little overwhelmed with that question because it's such a big answer, but thank you.
I have a couple thoughts. My gut is that Christmas it has a certain number of people that are crunching to also do their marketing, and that photography plays a role in that. Mm-hmm. So there are potentially, more than likely, a certain community of people that are already searching for these services, and to me that feels like an opportunity for paid advertising, Google ads, or pay-per-click advertising. Mm-hmm. And I think you made a great point, Sarah, about how you would segment it. And in my heart, I believe that you would probably identify what, the best approach would be to identify what is the lowest hanging fruit, either the easiest to acquire or the most profit potential across that breadth of services, and focus on those. Given that he's talking about a limited budget and wanting to get some results out of it before the holidays and before the new year, that seems like it would make the most sense, that you could really crunch, throw some budget at it, get some leads, and if the ads are well targeted toward that niche that is yours, really telling that story, showing some fantastic, some fantastic imagery that goes with it. If we're talking about a display ad, which I guess is another possibility, that seems like probably the best avenue. And then I think the secondary area to focus would be preparing for the new year and being ready for whatever, the types of photography that tend to be more corporate and non-holiday related. And that probably would be a secondary campaign. I think the immediate focus would probably be, if it were me, it would be to investigate whether there are opportunities leading into the holidays.
Yeah.
That was a great point about the potentials for partnering with companies in their own campaigns that they're doing, right? And one of the things I see a lot, and I've been there myself, is, the whole DIY approach, the do-it-yourself approach. Like, everyone's like, oh, you got iPhone 10, it's got like 3 cameras on it, and there's so much you can do with that. I mean, are people going to even need photographers? And the answer is yes. It's always yes, because it never fails that the technology can only do so much. It's still not that great. When people try and do it themselves, they don't understand lighting. I mean, I'm not a photographer in my day job. I dabble a little bit on the side. But yeah, I mean, trying to do it yourself, it doesn't always get great results. And I feel like this is like on the demand gen side of marketing. I feel like there's this component of empathy, of understanding people's fears and pain points. I want to do it myself. I don't have a lot of money. But then, also the education side where, yeah, I hear you. You probably want to save some money, do it yourself. But look at this. Here's the difference between what you're probably going to come up with and what it looks like when a professional does it. And when you rather have this, and what are the downsides if you don't, because when I see these folks with like really terrible photos for like even their LinkedIn profiles or other things. I'm like, what does that say to folks?
Right.
If you're getting like professional headshots. Yeah. I mean, does it mean you're not successful enough to better have a professional do it for you? Or are you just lazy? Or you not understand what professional looks like? I mean, there's a lot of things people might come away with. And I would say, from a marketing standpoint as a photographer, so if like professional portraits or headshots are a thing, if it's geared towards like business people or companies, really hit them at the gut where it's like, look, you want to do better, you want to have more revenue coming in, you need to show your best face. You tell that story or whatever it is. Hey, we got a comment here.
We do.
Using Google My Business to target audiences, and if so, how would you do that?
And this is relative to that last question.
Yeah. So Google My Business for targeting audiences. Is that something really relevant in this this kind of frame of mind. What do you think, Sarah?
So Google My Business, you cannot specifically target groups with your listing itself. But Google My Business does rely almost completely on SEO. So if you're using the keywords for those target audiences within your description and within your specific services, because within the past, I think it's the past 2 or 3 years, Google My Business does allow service-based businesses to have specific services within their Google My Business. So when you do that, make sure that you're using your keywords not only in the title, but also the description, because Google My Business, it relies completely on SEO. So while you can't specifically target a group, your targeted groups are going to be Googling those different phrases and those different keywords. And then your listing is more likely to show for those keywords that people are searching. And then additionally, your reviews, make sure that, I guess not make sure that, but encourage your past customers to leave reviews and to talk about the types of services they received. Make sure that, or encourage them to use words like wedding photography or words like family photography and things like that, because your reviews also wrap into SEO quite a bit for your listings. And then additionally, your responses to those reviews also become an SEO, a piece of SEO. So if you know that somebody's leaving a review talking about their family photography, but they don't mention it in there, you can always use those words in your response, and then you're more likely to show up for those keywords.
That's great stuff.
Can I add a little bit briefly about pay-per-click?
Yeah.
The targeting with pay-per-click, which may or may not have been the question that was being asked. Targeting with pay-per-click would tend to be based on the keywords that people, if we're talking about, about actual search, search traffic, aligning with keywords that are affiliated with whatever services you found to be the, your highest profit potential. But there also are many other ways to target pay-per-click ads, and that's typically how we would recommend doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely get Google My Business in order. Sync that up with the website, social pages, the brand and information all in alignment. And look for opportunities. Reviews. That's a very good point. Making sure if there aren't a lot of reviews on those platforms or on the website, get those up there. Ask for them. Sometimes people don't necessarily post a review, but you want to get the good ones, the ones that really show.
Careful about that, David. Legally, you can't ask for reviews, I guess, but you can encourage.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different for some of those different platforms. There's like Clutch, right? That website, like you literally have to ask somebody to, encourage them to do it, but you can't necessarily say, here, say this, right? But yeah, that's a good point. But you can always ask for testimonials, and you can put testimonials on your website, and that is effectively a review if you think about it. And you have a lot of latitude in how you portray those testimonials. It can be as simple as like just a little, hey, this is what they said, or you could go the extra mile and actually tell a story about what their experience was. Maybe in a video of you working. It's really great to work with this photographer. This is an awesome experience. That would be, some additional things I think about, because,
yeah, that's key. Striking that, having the visuals to strike that emotional connection, especially in that kind of competitive, arena, would make a ton of sense.
All right, let's move on to our next question. So you guys seem to post a lot about Google My Business.
We kind of answered this one.
That's important.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important part of SEO, so that can't be denied. I have a Google listing from my jewelry store, independent, not one of the corporate chains, but I'm struggling to find good ways to use it to promote sales. Is this something that would actually work for a business like mine? We probably need to keep things moving, but honestly, Sarah, you're a resident expert on Google My Business. Why don't you dive into that real briefly?
Well, I briefly mentioned that you can use your services, or you can enter your services in like an SEO optimized way. But in addition to that, if you are a product-based business, you can also do the same with products. And I would absolutely recommend that you do as many of those as possible. That's going to help your SEO, but it's going to help your SEO, and that's just also going to help your listing just do better in that way. It's going to help people that get to that point see that you have those products or those services if you're using that. And then additionally, if you're having a sale, or if you're having if you come out with a new product or anything like that, use Google Posts. They work exactly like social media posts, but on the Google My Business platform. And those also wrap into SEO.
Good points. Let's go and move on to the next one because, yeah, Sarah, she's got the Google My Business on lockdown, Tom. I can't compete with her on that. She's the I have a brick and mortar boutique clothing store, and I've recently set up an e-commerce presence using WooCommerce. WooCommerce on WordPress. That's great. It was a lot of work, and I'm not getting any customers as we go into the holidays. I plan to end my lease in the new year and focus entirely online. How do I boost revenue through the holidays? Yeah, that's not a fun place to be.
Yeah, that's hard pressure. But a place where a lot of people are at.
Yeah.
Get some PPC ads going now. Display ads, showcase your best products, boost ads on Facebook, have images. This is a clothing store. Any imagery you have, compelling imagery of people wearing the clothes, people showing off the clothes, use that for your display images. Use those in, have to add different backgrounds, just ways that stand out. There's so many clothing ads right now on everywhere. So finding a way to make those ads be really compelling and visually appealing. And then also make sure that you're targeting your audience properly. Because when you reach the right people, you're obviously much more likely to convert. And then in that same respect, clothing in general, not only is it a great gifting item, it is an amazing impulse buy opportunity. So get remarketing going. I can't tell you how many times I have clicked on a clothing ad because something looks cool, there was compelling imagery, and then I get remarketed to, and then I buy it. So clothing especially, that's a great opportunity to do remarketing.
And remarketing is a pay-per-click advertising tactic where essentially people who have been to your website or even your Facebook, presence, using the pixel tools or cookies and things from Google, you can show ads to those people again, when they're on the web. And this is the phenomenon, if you've experienced, where you go to a website once and then you see ads for that website or that business later on in other places. It's it's not stalking, but kind of feels like it. But it's helpful in a lot of ways.
It is a very, very high ROI. It's great. ROI. Sorry, I shouldn't use so many acronyms.
Well, it's very cost effective because you're only paying for those people who've already been there.
ROI is return on investment, and yes, it's very cost effective.
What else do you think on that one, Tom?
That was my thoughts. Given the immediate need, some a paid either display ads that establish that are targeted well and establish that emotional the connection to the type of target audience that you have for your boutique. In a very strategic fashion, because you don't want to waste money, but it sounds like the imperative is to build up business during this pivotal moment in retail in a way that allows them to enter the new year in a good place. Pay-per-click or other paid advertising, and Bing, we've especially with a limited budget, Bing gets some unusual results on occasion, but it tends to be less expensive and has a tendency to drive. It'll get you an additional audience that isn't captured through Google.
That's good stuff. I have a few additional thoughts. So yeah, analytics are definitely important. Since it's already got kind of the e-commerce system in place, what gets measured gets improved. So get Google Analytics set up. Even some tools maybe to look at behavior on how people are working with the site, determine their user experience. Where do they fall off in the e-commerce flow, in the funnel, right? Are they getting to the checkout and then just don't finish? That sort of thing. You can use tools like Hotjar to see how people interact with the website, and that sort of thing is really helpful. Utilize some cart abandonment tools. Something like 70% of people don't actually finish checking out in their shopping cart. It's a huge number, right? There's plugins like WordPress. Yeah, Retainful is a good example. One, get something in place like that, and it becomes automated. Send some emails to people. Hey, you didn't finish checking out. Maybe even send some promos just to kind of nudge them a little bit, and that can really help get the rest of it.
Building up a mailing list before the brick and mortar store closes and going into the holidays where there's a lot of traffic. That would be another, one that could be leveraged in the new year. Maybe not for short-term return, but to position for the new year.
Yeah, constantly be building a list, whether that's a list from social or email. Those are people, folks that have demonstrated they'll buy from you once. If it's kind of a retail thing, they'll buy from you again if they like the experience, right?
Right.
Yeah. On that same note, make sure that you are checking and pantomiming your user experience for the checkout. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to put items in my cart and tried to buy stuff online, and it's just so difficult to go back and forth from my cart back to the store and like maneuver around, and then I abandon my cart for that reason. So I mean, even if it's your site and that what you have is good, maybe go through every once in a while and try and do your own shopping and fine tune the user experience that way.
Yeah, keep it simple, because it's amazing the little things that will lose a customer.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, let's move on to the next question. What do we got here? My firm offers accounting and business analysis services, and our customers have dried up since COVID hit. Other firms seem to be doing fine. We absolutely have to hit the ground running in January. We have a Wix site that our former assistant created several years ago that doesn't seem to be helping. What can I try? Yeah, no, that's a lot of people are in that kind of place right now. Sarah, what do you think?
That is pretty rough. One thing I do want to mention is that other firms seem to be doing just fine. Point blank, everyone's having a hard time during COVID. So, I mean, I'm not going to say everyone is definitely not doing fine, but other firms may be creating the illusion that they're doing just fine. So that's one thing to think about before getting too discouraged, because optimism is going to help you move in the direction of being more productive with these things. Tom, you seem like you had something to say about this.
I was just thinking that probably the essence of accounting and their customer base probably hasn't changed too substantially as a result of COVID. I think you're dead on. Looking at what what their competitors are doing that appear to be doing better could unveil whether they really are or whether it's just a presentation. And as you mentioned, presentation really is a very important thing. If you can project that we're here, we're solid, we're ready to help you, and call us January 1. Be proactive about it. They may even be able to get stuff in early, given that people are not at work this year. A lot of people. So there may be potentially even to get work rolling proactively. I would look at the competitors and see what they're doing, and there's some sneaky tricks to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for copying the competition. I mean, not word for word or copy and paste, but copying their strategies and their marketing types of efforts. That's what marketing is.
Yeah, the successful people have paid. They've invested substantially to figure out how to conquer this problem that you're up against. Why not ride their coattails?
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so many things you can do, but it's really about how do you differentiate, right? You can use similar tactics and strategies, but the way you present it can still be different. Like it applies to just so many things in life, right? Like, people have been going out on dates for a million years, maybe thousands of years. Okay. Right. But the idea is, it's not a new thing. People are still doing it, but somebody's like, hey, here's my cool idea to take you some fun place. We're gonna have a good time. Or, yeah, that guy's pretty handsome and athletic and fit and super smart and really wealthy, but hey, listen to my jokes. It's like, it's all about the differentiation really matters. And why should somebody work with you versus the other companies? And, if it's an industry or market where a lot of companies are doing the same thing, it could be those intangibles, like the concierge kind of experience, like how easy it is to get your account set up, the communication and the continued kind of touch points, right? Those things, this could be a differentiator that really matters, right?
Well, and you make a great point, David. In accounting as a professional service, there's just not a lot exciting, and so people have the tendency to go, well, one accountant's the same as the next, and often they are, because it is very much a commodity service. But every company has their own way of interacting with customers, their own processes that they use, their own tools, their own kind of things that are their specialties. And everybody has something unique about them that can make them less of a commodity, and emphasizing those things and differentiating yourself immediately makes you a better value to somebody else.
Nobody wants to be a commodity except for those people selling concentrated orange juice.
You don't want to be a commodity.
All right, let's go to our next question. This is a big one. So I run a commercial sign company, and our business has struggled to meet orders due to COVID-related staffing issues. We have a few pieces of specialized machines that have excess capacity that requires minimal staff. We make little metal plates with serial numbers that go on the back of most equipment, or equipment plates is what they're referred to. These could be needed by manufacturers all over the place. How can we boost revenue now so we can really survive until these COVID restrictions start to get lifted? Survival.
This really goes back to PPC. It seems to be kind of be the answer right now, just because it is very difficult to market things in person. It also seems like this is a very easily shippable thing. It seems like even if it's a personalized thing, it seems like you can probably ship like hundreds of these for relatively cheap, just based on the description.
Yeah, probably not limitations ship, customer wise that other products might have.
Yeah, maybe even like do put in a little bit of money or a little bit of work to get an e-commerce perspective on your site and have people be able to personalize these digitally and order them. And I mean, if I could order something like that digitally without ever having to leave my house, that would be fantastic. So just thinking about your strategy and the different capabilities you have, especially for a product like this, and your target audiences, of course.
I was saying the same thing, that you would probably do a very fine-tuned, targeted, nationwide or even worldwide, given the shipping costs. I'm not sure if that's relevant in this case, but certainly a nationwide campaign that you could scale up, fill that capacity, and then scale down as the capacity becomes full. Because my gut is for something like this, the manufacturers, they can turn to a lot of different people, but there's probably capacity issues. I imagine there may not be that much competition on something this niche. So to me, it feels like a good opportunity to target until they don't need to. And they can ramp it back.
Like the personalization aspect is pretty minimal. Like it would be very easy to get a system going.
Right. To automate
yeah.
Yeah, that is a fantastic point.
And if it's something that's already like there's equipment to produce it, that means that people out there know it's a thing. There's some demand for it. It sounds to me that it may be more of a capturing of demand kind of scenario where, it might have been easier to capture some of that demand before COVID, but now there's more intensity to try and do that, more competition. So having, really aggressively, run, but very finely targeted campaign for pay-per-click, that's going to be really well suited to capture that.
Yeah.
And your point about automation, Sarah, that once you impart automation into that process, which could be fairly straightforward, the profit margin goes up, considerably, or the potential for profit margin.
Exactly. That could also be what your ad is about. Like, hey, order your, what are they called? Nameplate tags. Order your equipment tags in 10 minutes. Like, awesome. That's way better than whatever anyone else is offering. So yeah.
That's cool. Great idea.
All right. Let's move on to our next question. Let's see here. I have a branding person that has helped me with my updated collateral, but I also have a colleague that does SEO. The branding person is my longtime friend. I don't want to hurt their feelings. The marketing person seems really good at what they do, but my friend says he can do SEO too. How do I pick? Oh, that's a pickle, huh?
Don't pick. Figure out what their strengths are and let them work together. Make them work together.
Yeah, this is definitely one up your alley, Tom. This is kind of like this is more of like a business thing, right? I mean, relationships and stuff. Make them work together. Yeah, don't pick. I mean, it seems like good advice to me, but that kind of requires people to be the bigger people, right? The key there is that once you've got them working together, you can let it shake out, naturally where they're strongest, where their alignment is, and if they're not
if one or the other is not suited to cooperative operation, that would be a pretty big red flag to work with the other one.
Kind of source itself out.
I mean, to me,
Also-
that's like a good situation to be in. You've got a couple of resources that you can
Yeah.
test out that are dying to work for you.
Also, splitting up work in a lot of cases leads to better quality of each pieces of those work. My favorite kind of work day is when I have an entire afternoon to focus on one task. And I mean, rather than like trying to do so many things in that time frame. And the results that come from it are usually very good quality work. So, I mean, even if you're employing two different people for the same period of time or the same amount of hours per week, giving them more specified tasks to do, you're probably going to end up with a much more researched and developed piece of work in the end.
That's good stuff. All right, well, I think we have time for one more question. This looks like we got a good one here. So here's this last one. My company spends $10,000 a month on Google Ads clicks, but I only have a small amount of time to manage the campaigns because I'm the CFO also. We're bringing in leads, but we're barely breaking even through the pandemic, and we get a lot of calls from people that don't really need our services. I need to get better results and value now. What can I do?
This is our dream customer. I hear this a lot. Yeah, that's a pretty substantial spend, and it's easy to think you're doing good enough if you're breaking even, but there is almost always a little more you can wring out of it with some more effort, and the key is getting to the point of diminishing return. But the fact that this person is CFO but is doing their digital marketing seems to be a disservice to the digital marketing and probably to the financial portion of the business as well. Yeah. Focus on what you're good at and find something that's good. My gut is that there's probably someone out there like a firm like us that could help you save money and get more results with that same budget. There is a vast amount of really amazing strategy that can go into pay-per-click and paid advertising that really can be very effective, and it can have a huge impact on what you're spending per lead. One of the things we do is focus on driving quality leads so that you are getting less phone calls, but more quality work coming out of it, more quality sales coming out of it. So that's how we would tend to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Take a chunk of that $10,000 budget, and then pay somebody to really restructure your ads and fine tune your ads and target them in a way where you're going to be getting better quality leads for less money, and you're not decreasing your budget in any way, but you're getting better results.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems like a huge opportunity to get more, to drive more revenue, drive more profitability, really.
Targeting ads can be like a pretty cumbersome process too. And it may be something that doesn't come naturally to everyone. I do recommend that if you are doing it yourself, you focus on kind of the devices, the locations, placements, but even that, like, in layman's terms, it's a very frustrating thing to try and decipher. So yeah, my input on that is definitely to get somebody else to kind of look at it, especially since this person is CFO and may not have all the time to do that.
Yeah, my gut is you're going to get more results and spend less money and free your own time by getting the right person in charge. By being able to get that off their plate.
Mm-hmm. Target. Yeah,
absolutely. No, that seems like that feels like a no-brainer. Not to be insulting. This is an opportunity for this person, and I think that's exciting.
Good opportunity for them to not be messing with digital marketing.
Good opportunity for them to focus on their job.
That would be nice. Well, this is good stuff. Good ideas there. All right. Well, we've covered a lot today. We've reached just about the end of our time. We're going to wrap this up, but anybody who got here a little bit halfway into it, you can always find great resources, videos like this, and recordings from our live streams on our YouTube channel. You can find all this information at our website at denverdata.com. Be sure to look us up on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, Denver Data Web. And to get more information, subscribe, and like all that so you get notifications when our next stream is coming up. Other than that, thanks for joining us, and have a great weekend, everybody.